What's up, everyone? I'm Noe Gomez. As a performer, educator, and designer in the marching arts, I wanted to know the personalities and philosophies behind the creative minds in the activity. I wanted to check out their workspace, their pastime, eat at their favorite local spot, so I decided to spend the day with some.
Somewhere unseen, it got a little longer, so it seems.
Today we get to pass some time with Steven Estudillo. Steven was a member of Pacific Crest and the Cavaliers. He was a visual captioner at the Cavaliers, designer at Pacific Crest, Pulse Percussion, Chino Hills, and many more. I'm looking to pass some time with good people. Thanks for passing time with us. All right, here we're at Steven's house. We're excited to learn about his workflow and his workspace in general, yeah? Here we go. All right, so let's learn a little bit about Steven's workflow, work process, and how he kind of gets started and gets into his projects, yeah? So, Steven, what's your typical workflow and what's your typical creative process?
In terms of creative process, I think that's very dependent on the client, how they like to work, how they like to collaborate. On my side, once I receive all the production notes from whatever client I'm working for, sometimes it's very detailed, sometimes it's not. I tend to set it up on the dual screens. I normally have my production sheet notes on the right-hand side here, and then I work through the drill, following those notes as best as I can, and make sure that as I'm working through that, I'm considering all the elements and how we want to build up to these vertical moments that we've programmed into the show.
So Steven, how do you stay organized between all your different projects?
In terms of keeping files, data, production sheets separate from one another, I actually do a lot in writing. During a busy work season, my desk is normally filled with documents and papers and things like that. And I do keep them filed in different folders, the same way you would keep different folders on your desktop. I also keep real life folders.
Tangible papers.
Yeah, tangible
folders,
papers. Yeah. There's something about having the real paper in a tangible form in front of you that you're able to jot down notes, write notes, draw small forms. If you get on a quick call with, a guard instructor and they say, hey, we would really love to see them across the back this way, I jot all of that stuff down, and it's very accessible. And that helps me feel a little less clinical in my approach, and a little bit more freehand, and a little bit more it allows for a creative space to kind of exist. If it's too clean and tidy, then I feel like, it just too sterile, in a lot of ways. And so that's kind of one way that I keep organized with all of my clients and making sure everyone has what they need.
Nice. So when you are writing, right, you're obviously the entire time you're creatively problem solving, but what are those moments? What do you do when you are stuck creatively and you don't really have that decision right away? What are some methods they use to get unstuck?
I think getting stuck is a very common thing, like you said, when you're designing, it's constantly problem solving. It's constantly trying to get two pieces to fit that might not normally fit. And so it's about adapting piece one and piece two so that they come together. And so something that I do to avoid that is I give myself a little bit of patience, a little bit of grace. I step away from the creative process a little bit. I allow things to breathe. I step away. I grab some fresh air. I'll go play a round of golf. I'll do different things just to give myself the opportunity to think about it a different way. In addition to that, there's times where I'm dedicated to this one idea, and you just have to give that idea up. That's one way that you just remove yourself from the roadblock that you're in. Is, like I've said before, 3 + 3 = 6, and so does 2 + 4, and so does 1 + 5. And so find another way to have the same arrival point, or find another way to create a moment so that all the pieces do fit in a coordinated manner.
Nice. All right, everybody. Here we are at the Brea Creek Golf Course. We're here to do some golf. This is Steven's pastime. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna bet Steven $50 for one subscriber if he makes this next putt. Let's see it.
All right.
Ooh! Dude! There's something that you've always wanted to do and you haven't gotten to do it yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things that I've wanted to do. Oftentimes, you know, as a designer, you look for the biggest and most extravagant and most interesting and compelling design that you can do. And sometimes that requires a lot of production value and like props and those types of things. Those props and other things are often associated with logistics, which it's not one of my strengths.
Right,
it's not
yeah.
something that I really think about too often. I know
Yeah, you're
there
not
are
think-
people.
yeah.
I know there are people who do think about it.
Yeah.
But normally those are the limitations, right? If I want a big stage production and we can't get it on
Yeah.
a truck or something like that, that normally ends up kind of holding the production back,
Right.
or making it that we have to modify the idea to fit in a truck. Because I think that is important to be able to logistically get up and down the road.
Yeah, and like accommodate the client in that way.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then, you know, so for those reasons, I think those become limiting factors with just the size of the production. Also, you know, the financial obligation
Right.
on whatever client is trying to take on the production.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to say like, hey, we want these things, and then stick them with a bill that's too big for all of those pieces.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, Noe, so what are you doing for your subscribers? You giving stuff away?
Yeah, I'll get some
All
stuff
right.
away.
If I make this shot onto the green first try, you give away a gift card
All right.
to
I'm
one
down.
of your subscribers.
I'm down.
All right.
He doesn't
Oh, I
know.
can't mess this up.
He's gonna mess it up.
It's going. It's going.
No way.
There
Wow.
it is. You gotta give it away. All right, you're up.
All right, we just wrapped up some golf. You ready to eat?
Yeah, let's eat.
Let's do it. Unfortunately, due to the current COVID restrictions, we didn't get to go to his local spot, but we're at arguably the most local spot that it gets for him. Yeah, we're here at his house. Let's go check it out. All right, Steven, that was delicious. Thank you so much. Those burgers were amazing. So let's go through a couple more questions, yeah?
Yeah.
How did you get your first client and what was that experience like?
My first client, let's see. I was a member of Pacific Crest from Bucor for several years, and one of the instructors there was teaching at a local high school, and they suggested that I go work with them. They asked if I was available for the fall after that season. So I showed up to day one of band camp. I told them yes. I showed up to day one of band camp, and I found out they didn't have a drill writer. So then they just asked me if I would be able to do it. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no experience prior to that. But I said yes. So what I did was I went home and I contacted my former band director when I was in high school, asked him what he would do, and he showed me the drill paper, and he talked to me about just using that. And then I reached out to a couple more people, and I found a program, and so I was able to use that. At the time, it was called Drill Quest, and it was not very advanced. It was the equivalent of like clip art and like placing them on a grid.
Moving.
Right, and there was no animation, at least not that I'm aware of, that you could see what you were actually doing.
Right.
So day one of drill, I showed up with my drill charts and I taught everyone the first page, and then we taught everyone the second page, and we like tried running it, right, 8 counts, and everyone started slamming into each other and crossing paths, and it was really embarrassing and really bad. And so I went home, and like in that moment, it like hit me like, oh, I need to keep track of where they're going, not just the forms that they're in. Mind you, I was 17 years old when this was happening. So I went home and I quickly rewrote everything from one night to the next, and I showed up, and then we were kind of on our way. And so that was my very first experience writing drill. I started figuring out how motion works, right? And then, my first year writing, it was just that one show. Then it became 2 shows the following year, 3 shows the following year. And then by the time I was like, 4 years into writing drill, I received a phone call from Pacific Crest asking me to write their world-class drill for the drum corps. And so, needless to say, the learning curve was very, very steep to start. It's intense. But, it was one of those things where it was like fight or flight,
Yeah,
and
for
you just kind of have to learn your way out of it.
That's awesome.
So,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So what does your family think you do? What do your parents ask you about what you do? I'm sure they got to see some of it when maybe you were in high school, but then taking it to the extreme, right? Drum corps. And what do they think you do in that setting?
Yeah. So that's a really interesting question, because I initially started going to school to study mechanical engineering, and my older brother is also a mechanical engineer major. He went on and got his master's, and he's continued his education through college. I went a completely different route, right? I ended up having to break the news to my parents that mechanical engineering wasn't for me, and that I wanted to pursue this drill writing thing.
Yeah.
And so they were a little unsure of it, and they were a little skeptical because they didn't understand.
Of course.
To them, rightfully so, it looked like a hobby still.
Right.
And it wasn't until maybe 5-6 years down the road where I was able to invite them to a performance. Not where I wasn't performing, but where I was putting on shows. Right. Yeah. And I remember one time it was in San Bernardino. It was at the WGI Western Regional. And it was in 2014 with Pulse Percussion.
Nice. When
we had all of the snares go upside down and drum upside down and all that stuff. And, the crowd reaction was insane.
Ridiculous.
Everyone went nuts. Yeah. There was like a standing ovation for the last 40 seconds of the show. No one could hear anything, and it was totally fine.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was the moment that my parents were finally comfortable with what I did, and they said, wow, like this is what he does. He puts these productions together.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And so now I get their full support. Obviously it was a bit of like a leap of faith initially.
Of course, yeah. And you're putting all your eggs in a basket that many people are even unaware that exists.
Exactly. And so now my parents are really supportive. They love what I do. My mom always pitches me some shows, when she goes on her walks or something. She'll say like, hey, I saw, a bird, drinking out of a bird fountain. You should do a show about that. I'm like, okay, Mom, sounds good. I'll do that. That's the next one. That's the next one. So.
The next Pulse show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Well, we're going to wrap up this episode with some fun questions just to get this going. Yes, it'll be a quick little game. It'll be 1 minute, and you can answer as many questions as you can of this. Yeah? Cool. All right, here we go. Who would play you in a movie about your life?
Zac Efron.
Night in or night out?
Night out.
Breakfast in bed or brunch?
Brunch.
DCI or WGI?
I would say DCI.
3 things you do every day?
Brush my teeth, play with my kids, and eat.
Who was the last person that texted you?
Oh, it has to be my wife.
If you had to get a tattoo right now, what would it be of?
Maybe my kids' names.
That's a good one. What's your earliest memory?
Growing up in Los Angeles at my old home.
What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Nice shoes.
Nice shoes. What's inspiring you right now?
Inspire me. Other designers.
What's a movie that made you cry?
Oh, geez. Shawshank Redemption.
What's your favorite family tradition?
Christmas time. Has to be. Big family gathering.
Nice. All right, that's about it. Thanks everybody for watching. Do you have any plugs you'd like to?
Just if you can, give me a follow on Instagram at Estudrillo, or follow my page on Facebook, Steven Estudio Designs.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for passing some time with us. Peace. What's up, good people? Thank you so much for watching. If you want to have a chance to win one of the giveaways from today's pastime, subscribe to Noe Gomez Productions on YouTube, then visit Noe Gomez Productions on Facebook and share our first episode. We'll announce winners at the end of the month at noegomez.productions on Instagram. If you want to check out some of Steven's work, click on the Pulse Percussion link on the screen. Peace.